Your computer is fast. Embarrassingly fast. Billions of operations per second, fans whispering, graphs climbing, and yet it still hesitates when you open a folder. That pause isn't a bug, it's policy. Modern PCs are designed to waste performance on purpose, not because engineers are careless, but because speed, left alone, breaks things people expect to work. Right now, as you sit there, your processor is holding itself back. Your graphics card is waiting for permission. Your operating system is politely saying, "Not yet," thousands of times per second. We bought machines that can simulate weather systems. Then we ask them to show us a settings menu, and they stall, briefly, but noticeably. This video isn't about bad code or cheap hardware. It's about trade-offs we quietly agreed to. Safety over speed, predictability over raw power, battery life over truth. The uncomfortable part? Your PC could feel dramatically faster tomorrow, without new parts, without new software. It just won't. And once you understand why, you can't unsee it. For most of computing history, performance was honest. If your computer felt slow, it was slow. If it felt fast, it was burning electricity and optimism at the same time. Early PCs did almost nothing in the background. No animations, no safety nets, no invisible helpers watching every move. The machine did exactly what you asked, immediately, even if that meant crashing spectacularly afterward. Then computers escaped laboratories and entered bedrooms, offices, airplanes, pockets, and suddenly, speed became dangerous. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, processors started getting fast enough to hurt themselves. Literally, they overheated. They drew unpredictable power. They finished tasks so quickly that software written just a few years earlier broke because it assumed things would take longer. So engineers added buffers, delays, checks, small pauses to keep systems stable. Then laptops arrived. Battery life became sacred. A CPU running at full speed all the time was no longer impressive. It was irresponsible. Operating systems learned a new skill, restraint. They began scheduling work instead of executing it immediately. They spread tasks across time, across cores, across priorities. Your click wasn't ignored. It was placed in a queue. At the same time, software got friendlier. Animations replaced instant jumps. Transitions replaced raw changes. Not because they were faster, but because they felt safer to humans. By the 2010s, modern PCs had another problem. They were too fast for their own ecosystems. Apps assumed other apps existed. Security layers wrapped everything. Drivers waited for permissions. Memory asked politely before being touched. Every improvement came with attacks. Sandboxing, virtualization, abstraction layers stacked on abstraction layers. None of this was malicious. It was survival. A modern PC is no longer a race car. It's a city. Traffic lights, speed limits, noise regulations, emergency services ready for mistakes. The result is strange. You can measure your machine reaching unbelievable peak numbers, teraflops, gigabytes per second, clock speeds that would have sounded fictional 20 years ago. But day to day, it behaves cautiously, conservatively, almost shy, because the goal quietly changed. Not maximum speed, but acceptable speed. Everywhere, all the time. And that's where the real tension begins. Here's where the waste stops being abstract and starts becoming measurable. Inside your PC, nothing runs at full speed by default. Not your CPU, not your GPU, not even your memory. Every component now lives under a governor. Your processor can run at extreme clock speeds, but only in short bursts, milliseconds, sometimes microseconds. Then it slows itself down, not because it's tired, but because it's being watched. Temperature sensors report in constantly. Power limits clamp down instantly. If a spike looks suspicious, it's throttled before you ever notice heat. This is deliberate inefficiency. Performance that exists, but is rationed. The operating system makes it worse, or better, depending on what you value. Instead of doing one thing as fast as possible, it does many things slowly enough to feel smooth. Background updates, security scans, indexing, telemetry, tiny tasks that steal slices of time so small you're not supposed to feel them, but you do. That moment when the cursor freezes, when audio crackles for half a second, when a window opens and hesitates like it forgot why it was there. Then there's memory. Your PC has absurd amounts of it now. So much that programs have stopped being careful. Instead of asking, "Do I need this?" they ask, "Why not keep it?" Caches balloon. Frameworks load entire ecosystems just to show a button. Garbage collection pauses execution at the worst possible moments, then apologizes by pretending it was necessary. On top of that, everything is abstracted. Your app doesn't talk to hardware. It talks to an API. That talks to a driver. That talks to firmware. That talks to silicon. Each layer adds safety. Each layer adds latency. The irony is cruel. Modern hardware is fast enough to hide this waste most of the time, which means there's no urgency to remove it. Benchmarks look great. Marketing slides glow. but real interaction happens in the cracks between tasks. The system is optimized for averages. You live in edge cases. This is the conflict at the heart of modern PCs. They're engineered to protect themselves, their batteries, their users, and their ecosystems. And the cost of that protection is speed you technically own but rarely get to use, and we haven't even touched the math yet. This is where the numbers stop being comforting. Because once you add them up, the lost performance isn't small. It's structural. Take your CPU. On paper, it can boost to incredible speeds, but those boosts are capped by power envelopes designed for worst-case scenarios. Not what you're doing, what you might do. So the chip behaves like it's always preparing for an emergency that never arrives. It runs below its true limits to stay predictable. Now multiply that caution across every layer. The operating system schedules tasks in time slices, milliseconds chopped into smaller milliseconds. Each context switch costs cycles. Each safety check adds delay. Individually trivial, collectively constant. Then security enters the room. Modern PCs treat software like a suspect. Every app is isolated. Memory is guarded. System calls are filtered. Speculative execution is fenced in after years of side-channel attacks taught us what happens when hardware trusts too much. Those mitigations didn't come free. Some workloads lost double-digit percentages of raw performance overnight. Not because hardware got worse, but because reality did. And here's the quiet twist. Most of this slowdown exists to protect against things that rarely happen. Attacks, crashes, edge cases. We traded peak speed for statistical safety. Now add power management, dynamic voltage scaling, core parking, sleep states inside sleep states. Your PC spends a shocking amount of time waking itself up, ramping clocks, stabilizing voltages, reconfirming thermal headroom. All of that happens before your task even starts. So when something feels slow, it's not always doing work. It's negotiating permission to work. The climax isn't a single villain. It's alignment. Hardware vendors optimize for benchmarks and battery life. Operating systems optimize for stability and fairness. App developers optimize for convenience and speed of development. Security teams optimize for worst-case thinking. No one optimizes for the exact moment you click a button and expect an instant response. The system is rational, but not for you. And the cruel irony is that if all these constraints were removed, the system would feel incredible, briefly. Then it would overheat, drain its battery, expose attack surfaces, and crash in ways users would never forgive. So modern PCs are built with a permanent brake pressed halfway down, not because they can't go faster, but because the cost of letting them try is higher than we're willing to admit. And that realization changes how you see slow forever. So where does that leave us? Not angry, not cheated, just aware. Modern PCs aren't failing to reach their potential. They're succeeding at a different goal. They are designed to be boringly reliable in a chaotic world, to survive bad apps, impatient users, hostile networks, cheap chargers, dusty fans, and infinite browser tabs. They assume mistakes will happen, so they prepare for all of them, all the time. That preparation is the waste you feel. It's the reason your machine idles below its limits. Why performance comes in short, controlled bursts instead of a constant rush. Why opening a simple app sometimes feels heavier than it should. We optimize computers the way cities optimize traffic. Not for the fastest possible trip, but for the fewest disasters. And yet, the gap keeps growing. Hardware gets faster every year. Software gets safer, thicker, more cautious. The surplus doesn't disappear. It gets absorbed into abstraction, into compatibility, into protection against futures we might never see. That's not an accident. It's a choice the industry keeps making on our behalf. The uncomfortable question isn't whether PCs could be faster. They could, easily. The question is whether we actually want them to be. Would you accept a laptop that feels instantly responsive, but dies in 3 hours? An OS that flies but crashes when one app misbehaves? A system that trusts software again, knowing what that trust once cost? Because every layer of safety you remove gives you speed, and every layer you keep quietly spends it. So the next time your computer hesitates, just for a beat, remember this. That pause is the sound of restraint, of a machine choosing stability over impulse. And the real tension going forward isn't whether performance will improve, it's whether we'll ever decide to stop wasting it, or if waste is simply the price of modern computing.